So it just wasn't in the cards for me. But again, everything happens for a reason. Because if I would have gone down that route, I wouldn't be here probably today doing what I do.
Hey guys, welcome back to The Vegan View. Today we have a recipe developer, food photographer, dog mom, and just general awesome vegan babe, Alexa.
Hello.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you guys for having me.
I'm so excited that you're on the show because I stalk Alexa's Instagram. Like, you guys don't even know. Her food photography is next level goals. I've saved so many of your pictures.
Thank you.
I'm just totally giving myself
I'm like
away.
honestly the biggest fan. Like Chancey will come in the house like, oh, what are you watching? You know, he's like, The Vegan View, and I'm like, yeah.
Well, we're just as big a fan.
Yeah.
Jesse sends me your photos every day.
Yeah.
He's like, let's make this. And I'm like, that's a lot. I am not a recipe
It just
developer.
looks so enticing and colorful and beautiful.
Oh, thank
You're
you.
just very talented.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I love the composition of your photos. They're so colorful. They're just bright and enticing, and they look delicious. And I feel like everyone thinks vegan food is like very healthy and very just salads. And you don't do that.
You make it look so fun and approachable too. Nothing is so like fancy and ornate that it seems, you know,
Unattainable.
unattainable. It's something that I think people are really drawn to.
Yeah, I always say like vegan food is just food. Like it's nothing weird, and that's why you'll see like vegan fettuccine, and like sometimes I forget to even put vegan. Like some people will come like, but is this vegan? Like, I thought you were vegan. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like I literally forget because I'm like in my bubble and I'm like poppy seed loaf, like, and then people are like, but is this vegan? I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like I need to put like vegan and like caps for it. But like even yesterday I posted an omelet. Like I made an omelet with just egg. And people were freaking out, and someone commented like, I almost unfollowed you because I thought like you went over to the other side or something dramatic, and then they're like, but I realized it's vegan. And I'm like, don't worry guys, it's all vegan. But yes,
I love that they commented and said, like, let you know that they almost unfollowed you.
Oh, people let me know for sure.
That's so funny. No one holds anything back on the internet.
Nope, no filters. But yes.
I would love to hear about like all of your food photography and how you got into social media and stuff like that. But first, for our viewers who don't know you, can we learn a little bit about your life and your vegan story and who you are?
Yes. So I've been vegan for 4+ years. I think all of you have kind of been vegan for like that amount of time. Yeah, I think so. Like when I went vegan, I felt like I didn't know any other vegans except for like just people on the internet, and I wasn't friends with anyone on the internet quite yet. So I was like, I felt really strange. Like I remember feeling like I really want to go vegan, but like I'm scared. Like I literally felt so scared. I was like, this is so weird. My mom was like, what are you doing? Like my mom was like genuinely concerned, and I felt really weird. Like I wanted, there's a really big part of me that wanted to do it, but another part of me that was like, I don't know any vegans. Like all my friends are not vegan. Like I don't even have vegetarian friends. And so it was a little bit difficult in the beginning because I kind of just like didn't want to accept that that's something I wanted to do. But yeah, about like 4 years ago, I kind of started dabbling in like working out and eating healthier. And at the time, healthy was like 900 calories a day, which is so sad. Yeah, like I was like starving my body, and like I was doing like really fast diets, and that's all I really knew though. Like I remember being in high school and like I had a dance coming up, and I would like ask my aunt and my cousins like, oh, is there any diets that I should do? And like my aunt like sent me this diet that was like 700 calories a day. Yeah, it was like half a grapefruit and like I think it was like a hard-boiled egg. And then like for lunch it was like, I don't even remember, maybe like some like sliced tomatoes and then like something really sad. And for dinner I finally got to eat like a piece of salmon, but it was like the smallest piece. And
smaller than your palm or something.
Yeah.
Or they always
you can
say,
only eat the amount of your
You're
like, okay.
4 ounces.
Okay, like this is the size of my stomach. And so yeah, that was kind of like my relationship with food. But all the while, like I had this really deep love for cooking. Like I always say that like I was the kid that was watching Food Network more than like the Disney Channel. Like I was like a weird kid. Yeah, I think we like relate a lot on food, but I remember being like 10 and I was like so into the Food Network. Like I would watch it with my dad and like I just loved it so much.
What were your favorite Food Network shows?
Giada was like my girl.
Me too.
Like I love her so much. And 30-minute meals, like Rachel Ray, my girl. Yeah. So
you always talk about 30-minute meals.
Yeah, I would watch them after school, like all the time. Like I was just like a weird. Like that's kind of weird for a kid to be watching.
Yeah, that's weird. You guys are weird.
Yeah, like I don't think I my friends because that's kind of strange. So.
I had a high school boyfriend. Like one summer, all we did was watch the Food Network.
Yeah, love it. It's just so entertaining to me. And my mom would come in.
Well, I'm like, I guess I kind of am like that, but I watched HGTV. Like, I liked the like home makeover stuff. And it's funny how like the things you watch when you're younger, they totally tell you like what kind of person you're gonna become.
And you don't know it at the time. You're just kind of like a weird kid in the living room. Why am I watching this? But I remember my mom would walk in. She's just like, why? Like, how is that entertaining to you? Like, she would just never get it. And I'm like,
because they just made a bechamel, and it's amazing.
Yeah, so like my mom cooked because she was like she was a mom and it was her role, but she didn't love to cook. So I didn't learn to cook from my mom really. My dad, like, he liked to cook more. Like, he really enjoyed it. That's why he would watch, like, some of the shows with me. But, yeah, growing up, I just loved watching the shows. And so I kind of always just had this really deep, like, interest in it. And so when I had this really weird relationship with food, it was hard because I really loved food.
Yeah,
like, I really loved
torturous.
it. Yeah, and so I was resenting it, and I developed a really bad relationship with food. I had behaviors of an eating disorder. I remember Chancey, like, asked me if I wanted to get ice cream one day, and I, like, flipped on him. I was like, how dare you ask me if I want ice cream? Like, who am I? And I was like, that does not fit under my 900 calories, sir. And he's just like, oh, my God. So that was going on for a few months.
It's crazy though, because back then I remember growing up, especially around our time, the magazines, there was nothing normal about food relationships modeled to us.
No.
And I remember seeing it and being like, oh, this is how other people eat.
Yeah.
And it sucks when you love food as much as people like you do.
Yeah, you feel wrong for it.
You feel like there's something wrong with you. Like you're out of control. You don't know how to like I could never eat less than like 700 calories a day. Like, I would be miserable.
Even the 1,800 calories that was recommended for my height and weight or whatever at the time.
I remember they said 1,200 for a while. Like, all women should only have 1,200 calories a day.
That's insane.
How about we just
nuts.
Eat till we're full?
But the thing is it makes you feel so bad. It's not surprising that you have those kinds of behaviors because it makes you feel like there's something wrong with your willpower when you're not able to sustain those tiny portions. But it's literally your body needing more food, and how can you be mad at that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I actually have this conversation with my girlfriends a lot about social media being really detrimental to like the younger society of like body image. And so I didn't have that in middle school or high school because I don't think social media was really a big thing when we were going through school. It was more of like you had a MySpace and you just had your girlfriends and that was it. Like you had your top 5 and like you didn't really care about like what models were doing. There wasn't like MySpace models. But in our generation, at least, I remember flipping through magazines and like the next diet was like those really low calorie diets, and that's what our idea of eating healthy was. Like that's just what it was in those times. And so growing up, that was just normal to me. So when I found myself in that situation again, counting calories, I was like, this is terrible. Like, I felt so low energy, but people were telling me I looked great. Oh my God, you lost so much weight. So, and then nothing's ever good enough because people are telling you this, but then you look in the mirror and then you have this, like, body dysmorphia and you just, like, nothing is ever good enough. You step on the scale, you see numbers, and you're like, no, but I can get lower because people say I look great, so why don't I just keep going? And so it's this, like, really intense, vicious cycle. And luckily, I wasn't caught up in it for too long because I honestly think my love for food like conquered it all. I was like, I love food. And so I remember just going on the internet one day and looking for different options like paleo, just like different diets I can do. And I came across a vegan diet, but at the time that freaked me out because it was when raw vegan was really in. But it was like abundance. It was like everyone was eating like God knows how many calories and like a big plate of like 7 mangoes, and I was like, wow, what is this? I'm used to eating like a quarter of a mango.
It's such a polar opposite. I think that's why it got so big, is because we were doing calorie like restricting, detoxes. I remember there's this diet that you remember the like milk ads that were like an hourglass shape, and they were just like replace meals with milk. Just like a cup of milk.
You're hungry, drink milk.
Like,
wow,
eat something. Don't just drink a cup of milk.
And
but
then
totally like see like people eating such abundant plants. and like, looking so happy about it.
Yeah,
it was really attractive.
Of fruit, like a beautiful platter. So that really appealed to me. I was like, let's do this thing. And so I basically started just like, trying to eat more fruits and little by little, but I didn't have like connection to like the ethical side of anything. It was about like, I guess like a month that I was eating this way. Still kind of restrictive because at the same time, in that time everyone's like low fat. So that's also kind of like restrictive.
Yeah.
So it's definitely been a journey with like how I've, my whole relationship with food. But essentially when I found, I watched The Best Speech You'll Ever Hear, and like for me in that time, it was like everything I needed to hear. But it's a very intense speech. Like I don't go out and like recommend it to everybody, but for me, it honestly changed my whole life overnight.
Yeah.
And I called Chancey and I was like, babe, I need to be vegan. Like I'm like sobbing. And then he's just like, okay, babe, like I know you've been eating vegan for like a month. I was like, no, but officially, like I'm gonna call myself vegan. Like, and I'm like Googling like, where do leather shoes come from? Like, where do my Uggs come from? Like everything was like coming down, and like I was just learning so much, and it was overwhelming and frustrating and like scary. But that was kind of like my transition. I think it was like 4 months of a transition. It wasn't like, one day to the next, because I was still learning so much. Like I didn't realize that honey wasn't vegan and like little things like that. But yeah, that was kind of like my journey to it all.
Wow. So like no looking back after that?
Oh, no looking back.
What led you into wanting to share it via social media?
Yeah, so at the time when I went vegan, it was like the smoothie bowls and the acai bowls were really in.
Yeah.
And so you just like take a picture with your phone. And so I remember I think I had followed like, I don't know if you guys know Tess Beg. That was like the one Instagrammer that I followed, and she was doing like a lot of smoothie bowls, so I was getting a lot of inspo from her.
And would you make them yourself, or were you getting? Okay.
Yeah. So that was like my opportunity to jump into the kitchen. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've always like had this like really deep appreciation for food and culinary, and so like let's do this thing. And so I like kind of dove into like cooking more and doing more like fruit smoothies and stuff like that, and making them really pretty was like so exciting and like a fun new like passion of mine. And so I remember I took a picture of like my smoothie bowl and I put it on like my personal Instagram page. And, like, I had friends commenting, like, oh, like, what is this, and, like, you should post more. And I'm like, okay. So then I just started doing it, like, on my personal Instagram. It was, like, just for fun. And then it kind of evolved from there. I would say, like, the first year was just, like, if you go back, it's just, like, all fruit and, like, salads and potatoes.
Was the same thing. Like,
everyone had, like, the same.
Ate, though.
That's how everyone ate, I think, and all the vegans. And so that's kind of how it all started. And then eventually I was getting more creative and actually like doing for reals recipes, not just smoothie bowls and baked potatoes. But yeah, so that's kind of how I got into social media. I didn't expect for it to go the way it did. I think a lot of us maybe like when we first started, because back then it was a thing, but now it's like really a thing.
It's like people like go into it being like, I'm gonna start a business.
Yes.
And we were just like trying to make friends.
Exactly.
That didn't make fun of us.
Exactly. Yeah. And like relate to someone and just like kind of like show this way of eating, because it was a little bit different. So you're like, oh, I guess I'll just take a picture and like post it. But yeah, like my goal was never like, oh, I'm gonna be like doing this full time. Like I was going to school, I was working with kids, I was working in elementary school and like studying child development. But all the while, like I always had this deep love for cooking, and I actually always like wished I could do something in cooking. There was a point where I wanted to go to culinary school, but I just didn't really know if I would be supported in it. Like all my life, I just feel like in school, in high school, like they ask you like, what do you want to do for your job? And then it's like, oh, well, this makes good money. Like you should do this,
This makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember like I would say, oh, well, like I like to work with kids. Like I've always loved kids. And so they're like, oh, well, you should be like a speech pathologist. Like they make really good money. Or like, and so you don't ever get asked like, what are you passionate about? Because if someone would have asked me in high school, like, oh, what are you so passionate about? I would have been like, oh, I love food. Like I love cook. Like I love culinary and like. But no one asks you that. It's just like, what are you going to do for a living? Like, what's going to make you the money?
Yeah.
And so I remember actually sitting freshman year of college. I wasn't vegan. yet. It was like a year before I went vegan, but I was a little bit more health conscious, like eating healthier, and like actually I would cook in my dorm. I had like illegally in my dorm, like I had like a little like portable, and
I would just like hide it.
Yeah, like Chancey would come visit me. We'd make pancakes in the morning, like hoping all the smoke alarms didn't go off.
Oh my God. I didn't know you weren't allowed to have those.
No, those aren't allowed. Yeah, but yeah, we're rebels. But yeah, I remember my freshman year of college, I was going to Sacramento State, and I was sitting in class, and it was like a freshman seminar class, like to help you through college. Yeah. And so one of the assignments, I had a question on it, like what is like your dream job, like without even thinking or like taking a second to think, just like what pops into your mind, like no matter how big. Yeah. And I wrote just like cooking, and I remember thinking like I don't know what that means, like where it's like what I even want to do, if I want to like work in a restaurant or like I don't know what that means, but I always like idolized Giada, so I'm like, oh, I want to be like on a TV show, like oh my God, yeah, like I would write that, but I felt so silly, like I felt so silly saying it out loud and so embarrassed, like who do I think I am to just think I want to be Giada?
I know.
And so,
I used to say I want to be Rachel Ray.
Yeah, so it's so funny, but I remember thinking that, I think I wrote that like something in like a TV cooking show, and I just felt so embarrassed and silly and like not confident in it, but like I was like, oh well, like that came out for a reason.
Felt it.
Yeah, I felt it. It was like my subconscious thoughts. Yeah. And so when I wrote that and I like turned in the paperwork, my teacher literally said like, oh, like, well then what are you doing sitting in this class? Like
that's a good teacher.
What? I know. And so I called Chancey that day, and I was like, babe, like when you come visit me next, like can you like drive me to like a cooking or like culinary school that's close by? And so he said, okay, yeah, let's go. And so when he came up, he drove me.
Excellent work.
Yeah, Chancey's sitting over here. And so he drove me to this culinary school, and everything happens for a reason. Basically, it was just a lot of money, and I was already in debt from the first year of college, and so it just wasn't in the cards for me. But again, everything happens for a reason, because if I would have gone down that route, I wouldn't be here probably today doing what I do. So I remember feeling really discouraged.
I'm getting like chilly. I'm just so proud of you.
Yeah, but I basically went back home after my first year of Sacramento because I was really confused. I was like, I really want to do cooking, but like I don't think I'll be supported in it. So I basically went home and I continued to study child development. And while I was studying child development and like going and working with kids at an elementary school, that's when this whole vegan transition happened. And so I was probably doing this whole Instagram thing for like 2 years while working with my students. And then this is like very like ballsy of me, I guess, but like I got one part like brand deal, and it was literally like I think like $200, and I was like, oh my God, I'm making money. And so I was like, I need to like quit my job.
Oh
like,
my God.
Yeah, like I want to do this like full force.
I think honestly, you knew how talented you were. Like I feel like it's ballsy, and you're a smart woman, and I think that you had the foresight to see it.
Yeah, I had this like strong intuition in me. Like I didn't know like what it was going to lead me to, but something in me was like, I'm just going to take this risk. Yeah. And so basically from like one day to the next, I decided like I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to like take a semester off from school, and I'm really going to like pursue this thing and like get better at photography, get like an actual camera, learn about like what the best way to take photos is. And so that's what I did. Like I wasn't making all this money like for like calling myself a blogger or like whatever, doing things on social media. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
You know, I was still hustling. Like I was working at the farmer's market making like as much money as I could. I was working at a yoga studio and like cleaning mats just so that I can get by to do what I wanted to do, because I wasn't the best at it in the beginning. I wasn't, and I was just learning, but
you don't get anywhere.
I don't know,
but
like
no one's the best at
no
first.
one's the best at
Your
first.
first
And it's
everything's
like,
not gonna be perfect.
Exactly.
I love that message.
Yeah, and so that's basically how it was for like the first year and a half. Like I was that, but like it wasn't easy. Yeah. I was doing a ton of other little things, and so now for the past like officially a year, I've been like full time, not working any other side gigs. But
congratulations!
Yeah,
congrats.
so
That's a big deal. Inspiring.
Thanks. But yeah, so that's kind of like where I'm at now. Just doing like social media. I give a lot of recipes. I'm sure you guys saw, like I do it just like all on Instagram, which I think you do too. Like just putting the recipe there, because people are kind of a little lazy.
Yeah, they don't want to go to the site.
Once I did it like once, everyone's like, oh my God, thank you so much for doing that. Like please do that for the rest. And I'm
Women
like,
after my own heart. Truly.
Yeah, and so I just put it all on Instagram, but I also have my blog because a lot of people like to see a blog post later. And so I do like the blog, Instagram, and then I'm writing a cookbook right now because that's like my dream of mine. I don't know, like you probably so like seeing that like Giada, like Rachel Ray, they would have their cookbooks,
person, you guys.
and I was 10 and like I loved cookbooks. Like I remember like I would like flip through them and like look at the pictures and be like, wow. And I was like 10. I was like, I want to make this like pasta like by Giada.
I feel like I split myself in half and like you're sitting there.
So
that's so funny. Yeah, well, congratulations. I'm so happy for you, though, because I know, because like, you know, we have that in common, so I know what a big deal that is, and that's so cool.
And I like how you mentioned, like, the struggle of being a vlogger, because I feel like it looks so glamorous, and so many people think, like, oh, all you do is, like, sit at home and take photos of food all day? That's so cool. And then you get sent all this free stuff? How great for you. Like, no.
It's, there's so much that goes into it. And
it's not like, easy to make money doing this.
It's not, and there's also... I honestly struggle with my mental health a lot through it because comparison is a big thing, especially in the beginning. Like it's hard. Like you want something so badly, and you start to compare yourself to someone who already has it. You're like, wait, why am I not there yet? Like, oh my gosh, I should just give up. I'm never gonna be enough. Nothing ever feels like enough.
I will be so upset.
I won't because I have
go to your house and find you and be like, I'm sorry, you made my favorite buffalo wings. Like you need to get it.
I know, and it's hard, and I think social media gets, like you said, like it's like glamorized, and like, oh, you're so lucky, but it's like I don't think it's made for everyone. It's definitely something that you just have to. Well,
what do you do in those moments when you're feeling really down and you want to give up? Like, what makes you keep going?
So I can remember like one specific time in the very beginning of this when I was saying how like I was really hustling for it, and like it was like there's points where I'm like, I don't even know if this is gonna go anywhere. Like I'm wasting my time. I'm getting older. Like I stopped going to school. I have loans to pay. Like there's a lot of things that go into it. Like my time was ticking. I'm like in a year, like I have student loans, and like how am I going to support myself? I have a car loan. There's just so many things. And so I remember looking at Chancey, I was like, I need to like sell my camera and give up. And he's just like, no, you're not doing that. I'm like, yes, I am. I'm selling it. Like I need it to like pay my bills. Like I can't do this anymore. I literally like sold my camera. Like I did give up.
I remember the story.
Yeah, I sold my camera, and then like the next day Chancey's like, I ordered you a camera.
He got her.
Yeah, he's like, I ordered you a camera. Like you're not. And I'm just like, all right. So that really helps, like, having a support team because...
And that is what, like, relationships, like, I'm so passionate about having good relationships. It doesn't have to be, like, a romantic relationship. You need people in your life who believe in it.
Yeah, even friends. Because a lot of times, like, your family they want the best for you, but they give bad advice. They don't mean to, but they just like they know what they know, and they know how life was when they went through it, and so
like, I feel like, do you really want to take that risk?
They're scared.
You want it to be easy and smooth.
Of course.
So it's important.
And that's also, I think, it's that generation for our parents too. Where like they're like, what do you mean you're gonna do social media? Like my grandmother has she does not understand. She just thinks I post pictures of like food on the internet. She's like,
my grandpa does not get it
she's
either.
Like, but like how? Like what do you talk? Like is this your recipe? Like you made this? I'm like, yes. And she's like, I was like, but where'd you get this photo? I was like, I took it. She's like, what? Like she just is so confused. And so I think it's just like a whole other generation of things. But yeah, it's hard. Like, my mom was, like, very concerned in the beginning. She's like, well, how are you going to pay for things? Yeah. Like, and so it's definitely difficult because you're like, are you supporting me? And it's like, you don't feel supported. You feel like you're not being believed in. Mm-hmm. And so it can really discourage you. But I think finding, like, it doesn't have to be romantic. It can just be, like, one person who really just, like, believes in you, and it's at the end of the day it's just believing in yourself, because people can tell you over and over again, like Chancey would be like, no babe, you're gonna do this, like I believe in you. I'm like, and I would get so frustrated, I was like, but I don't like feel it too. And so you really have to like develop this good relationship with yourself where you just push and motivate yourself. But yeah, having that support is super important. But yeah, there's times where I do get really down. I think a lot of people on social media like don't talk about it, but it is hard because, you know, there's so many people are doing great things and you're like, oh, I want that. Like, and then you get frustrated. You're like, why don't I have that? But I think you just have to take a step back and like everyone's journey and like everyone's position is so different. Yeah. And you have to just take a look at what you have in front of you and be like, wow, but I'm so 100%. Grateful for this opportunity that I got in this partnership, and like what I'm doing here is so great because everyone is so different. Everyone has something different to offer. So you cannot compare yourselves. Like, why would you want to be the same as someone else? Like when you're just you and like people love you for you. They don't love you because you're trying to be the other person who like has all these things. So it's like you just have to like stay in your lane and stay focused and just like be you.
Sure. So Chancey bought you a new camera and then you were like, all right, I'm going to do this? Or what was next?
Yeah, I was just having a drama moment. Yeah. I was being a tourist, very stubborn tourist. Like, no, you're not going to tell me what to do. Even when you got me the camera, I was like, no. That is nice, but no. Nice gesture, no.
So because your photos are so gorgeous, I'm sure everyone wants to know all your little secrets of how you take the photos. But for the average person who like doesn't own a camera, who's just starting out, maybe they're taking photos on their iPhone, what are some like good tips you could give them to take better food photos?
Okay. My number one tip is natural light. It's so important with food photography. Seriously, like if you take something indoors that does not have natural light, it can look like complete crap. Or like, what is that? But then if you take it outside or to a patio or next to a window, you know, you could see the colors, you could see everything well. But I was just like joking with them that like I don't really know technical things about cameras. I use a Nikon, which for one, a lot of people are not team Nikon, which is fine. Sony's a good camera, like Canons are like really popular. Those two are super popular, but I literally feel like I'm the only person who uses Nikon. When I went and bought my first camera, I asked one of my cousins who's a photographer. She does like family portraits and like baby photos, but I was like, what camera do you? Because she was the only person I knew that like was a photographer. And she's like, oh, Nikon, like it's really easy to use. And so it is. Like I've had it since the beginning. I'm very simple. I just use like the lens it comes with. I always ask Chancey, I was like, what's dang. That's what like when people ask me, I'm like, I'm so sorry, I don't like really know like much about cameras and I don't really want to learn.
But it kind of shows that it's really not about the camera. No. When I started YouTube, I used my phone and people would message me, and like I started YouTube not that long ago and I like finally got the courage to buy a camera. But it was on my phone. Right. And people came and watched it. Like, it really goes to show it's the content.
Yeah, it's the content that you create. Yeah. So with the whole food photography thing, I always say like pay attention to the littlest detail. Like literally like some of the silly things that I do is like place like if I put like cilantro on a plate, like garnishing a plate, like if like one falls weird, like I literally will move it to like look better. Like that's like the tiniest things. Like it's just small little things that make a difference and make the food look like just delicious on a plate. And so it's like the small little details to pay attention to. And another tip, like I said, with the whole lighting thing, I actually for like the first like 2-3 years of taking photos, like I would only take my pictures outside, like literally outside. So like I was living with my parents, and we have like a nice patio where the lighting would be good, and like it was only at certain times of day, so I would take
when it's not like direct on there.
Not direct sunlight. It would be like around 6 when the sun was like about to set. It was like a very specific time of day that just like makes the food shine. And so Chancey and I just moved into our apartment where we have this like tiny little patio that just like not have the greatest light. It's so hard. So now I'm starting to do it like inside. We have really big windows, so I'm kind of trying to work with it, but lighting is like the number one key with food photography. And then like the boards that I use, I started with like, what did I start with? I started with literally like a poster board. Like it can literally just be like a white poster board if you need like a white background. Like those are like $2. And then there's other ones. There's ones that you can like roll up and it rolls out to be like a marble.
So cool.
Those are really cool and like really convenient because they could just like, they're light and they're easy. My favorite though that I've been using recently that is pricier, but it's a good investment if like you're going to be taking photos like almost daily. I can let you guys know what the name is. I think it's White Canvas, and this woman like paints them. They're really cool.
Yeah.
Like they're like these different marble boards, like rustic boards, and she's a painter, and so she creates these beautiful boards, and like one side will be marble and like one side can be like wooden look.
Awesome.
Yeah, so you get two different styles, and she's amazing. Like I said, they're a little bit pricey, but like if it's, you know, they're easy to clean up, and you can just like, they're boards and you can just move them.
It's canvas, like the fabric?
So no, it's like, I would say
it's like composite wood, right?
Yeah, I think
so it's like lightweight wood.
Yes, lightweight. Yes. Yeah, so that's what I've been using, and then like little props. Like you don't have to like spend a lot of money on little things.
I love
like
your prop shelf.
Oh, thanks.
Oh my
but
gosh.
it's so small. Like I don't use a ton. Like a lot of, I mean, if you want to get a ton, do it. But we have limited space. We live in a studio apartment, and like I'm just a really simple person. Like if something works for me, like I just do the minimum. So I have like a couple bowls that I really like. I go through like my phases. So I go to like Target and I get like, I love Chrissy Teigen's like Target line. It's so good. Like she has these beautiful bowls. So I use like literally the same bowl in all my photos. And then like I get like smaller petite forks, because like if forks are going to be in it, you want it to not take
I've noticed that.
That's such a big
really,
deal.
Yeah,
like
full-size fork looks
like
odd
too
in a
clunky.
photo.
Yeah. And then like I used to, so like you go through like little phases of like what style you like. So like I used to do like kitchen towels, like pretty like colorful kitchen towels. Now it's not my thing, but it used to be. And so I'm like, oh, why did I do that? Like, but in the moment I was like, this looks so great, and I had like a kitchen towel on each one. So it's just like whatever you're feeling. A board, like I always say, what also helps if you have a white bowl to hold the food, and you have a white board behind it, you want to have something contrast. So I always have like a wooden board, like you know those like cutting boards. So just like something to contrast it, to like kind of lift up the food a little bit. So like underneath or to the side, and you can have like your little garnishes. But like those little details do matter.
I've noticed with your photos, they have a lot of texture. There's like layers. And you've really, and because you use the same thing with you, because you use the same things over and over again, like you have your particular look. As soon as I scroll past I know that's her cutting board, and I already automatically am like, oh, I love her, I'm gonna like the photo, and then it catches my eye.
Yeah, exactly. So once you establish, like you don't have like you can get inspiration from people, but kind of just like establish what you like, and like what feels good for you, and like what is appealing to you, because people will like it, and you have to kind of like stick with your whatever you do like. I like Nikki's. Like I know when I'm looking down, and like I love the ones when you do like the interactive ones where you're in it and you're like doing the line, because I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Nikki, and I love it, because like I would never do that. I would never think to do that, but I love that you do it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so like you, and it's so cute. And I'm like, wow, that's like perfect. It's so creative. But yeah, so everyone has their own little style. Like you said, like you go through them. Sometimes you just know. You're like, oh, this is this person's
I love
best.
when someone has a style, because it makes it so much easier to interact with something like Instagram, where you're so saturated with content. Like Veggykins, like Remy, I know her content is going to be pastel and pink
and white,
just like fluffy and
I've
white.
seen her page,
and I know yours is going to be like super bright and very like
there's like
textured.
a color scheme.
And it's nice when you can see your friends.
But I like what you said about experimenting based on what you were feeling. So it's like before you used to use this kind of style, then you kind of that evolves naturally. And I think I'm in that place where I'm sort of experimenting with different styles and seeing what I like, and also seeing what your audience tends to respond to, because a lot of times stuff I think is so good, it doesn't always do that well, and vice versa. So I think it's totally fine if you guys are watching and you want to do more food photography, because you were saying that is a really cool source or a way to be an activist. So I think it can be just a fun hobby, or it can be the way that you express your love of veganism. But either way, it can be hard to be like, what's my style? How am I going to get the lighting right? You have to play around with it and give yourself time.
Yeah, definitely.
And most of my friends aren't like internet people, so I'm the only vegan that they follow, and that is such a good thing for them to see good food. And then like for me, I used to do a lot more food stuff. I don't as much anymore, but I started out with like a white poster board, and then I found like on Craigslist someone was selling a little tabletop, and so I bought that, and I was using that like wood, and I like stopped liking that because I wanted to put a cutting board on it. So you just experiment. Something I really like is going to any kind of hardware store and buying you can get like thin sheets of marble, you can get contact paper that like rolls out, you can get tile, and you can get whatever color you want. Like if you want to have, I've never seen this, but if you want to have like a blue tile in the back of it, like just do you.
Yeah.
I love it when it's so personable and you just know, like, that's my friend.
Mm-hmm. I really just didn't know what I was doing, you guys. Like in the beginning, like I was on my patio, like I would use like the concrete as like my background. I was like, is this gonna work? Like, and sometimes that works.
I know some bloggers who use their garage concrete and it's beautiful, and then I'm like, why does mine look like it's in a garage? Like,
so it just depends. Like everyone's different, has their own style, so you just kind of have. It's honestly just practice. Like we said, no one starts off as like a mega star with all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like it took me like 2 years to really like actually like my photos, because like I look at the old ones, I'm like, oh my god, those are like so terrible and so embarrassing. But it's like, it's honestly just practice. It doesn't happen overnight. It just takes a little time and patience.
I think some food is easier to shoot than others also.
For sure.
So like if you're starting out and practicing, something like a plate of cookies is way easier than something that could melt or something that's like or a smoothie bowl. Or like I find sandwiches to be so hard. I just today posted a picture of
like when they're stacked.
Burger. All different ways. You should have seen me this last couple of days. I was like, I literally scrapped an entire shoot. I know. I took all these photos of this burger and I just didn't like it. I didn't think that it looked right, and it didn't show how good it actually was, and that's the whole point. And I still don't know that I love the photo, but I needed a photo, so I just had to use something. But it's frustrating for me for sandwiches because they can be lopsided, they can be messy, they don't look as good as they actually are, and
No, I've been there. There's a lot of things I don't post because I'm like, they're not pretty enough.
This
will not make it on the feed. But that's how crazy I am about little things.
I mean,
like,
your feed is like pretty pristine.
That's because some things don't make it on there. And I'm just like I guess it all comes down to like sometimes I'm a little too hard on myself. I'm like, no, this is so ugly. And I get so mad. And Chance is like, babe, this is perfect. I'm like, don't say it's perfect. It's so ugly. So it's just like, I often say like it's okay to be a perfectionist in your craft because that just means that you care.
But don't forget
and like
have fun.
And have fun and like don't take it too seriously, and like you're your own worst critic. And so maybe just get some other opinions before you just like go off your own.
Well, this was so much fun. I feel like I learned so much about you, and hopefully everyone got some good food photography tips. If you guys have any questions about food photography or just anything you want to ask Alexa, make sure you ask us in the comments below.
Make sure you follow her.
We'll put all
link
of her
all her
links.
stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Yay.
You are in for a treat.
Thank you guys for having me. It was so much fun.